forgotten. This is Harbor Town. Harbor Town is an all-new series from Miniature Building Authority, the leader in tabletop gaming scenery. Unique, flexible, and playable, Harbor Town will take your games to a new destination. From the edge of the sea, from the edge of time, beckons a destination, ancient, hidden, forgotten. This is Harbor Town. Harbor Town is an all-new series from Miniature Building Authority, the leader in tabletop gaming scenery. Unique, flexible, and playable, Harbor Town will take your games to a new destination.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. How
Hello.
are you this evening? We all good?
Good.
I'm Jay Kaylor Kazumba, and I got a double header here for you. I got DM Marco, my old friend who
Yep.
plays in my game Thursday night. And can everyone hear me online too? Can you hear me clearly? Hey, I got a headset on, so hopefully we don't have any reverb tonight. Hey, Frank, Naz, Anna, Jeff Moore. Everyone, just let me know how the sound is. So I'm hoping we have some pretty decent sound for this evening. And then I have thanks Anna, the ever mysterious Tim tonight for a full. We got Tim on Naz. I told you it was going to be a special evening. We're going to have a blast tonight. We're going to have, yes. And we got Tim for the full time too. Mark may have to depart a little early, but Tim and I will be on the whole time. By the way, Tim, Grimsparkle is Jeff
I'm
Moore.
afraid so.
Hear that?
Jeff, how you doing?
Jeff Moore. So tonight, story time tonight, guys. We're going to tell some old school stories. We're just going to go and we're just going to have some fun with it. This is Rox it was his idea. I appreciate everyone hopping on. We're going to just go and just run with some old school things that have happened in our campaign. Naz sent me a list. I know Rox has some questions, but here's what I did. So I had a lot of stuff hidden behind the book. The book. That's the don't read the book that we're going to talk about. And I got a bunch of pictures with everyone but Mark. I have no pictures of Mark. And then I thought to myself, I do have pictures of Mark. Now, we're going to go by Anna. I apologize. We're going to go by your maps real quick, but it'll scroll back. So here we go. I got pictures of Mark here. Here's an Anna map. There's Tring Lee. There's Altamira. There's Celine. There's Principality Ulick. And here we go. And there's the event. All right, Jeff. So this is a cartoon Grimsparkle made 35 years ago, and the Renaissance Fair Massacre. So yes, it should change unless I messed it up. There we go. There, look, and there's Mark, the little halfling. There's Walt, who's Drew. There's me. There's Jeff, and there's Tim. So there you go. So there's my pictures of Mark, and it'll continue to scroll. I got pictures of a lot of my friends, a lot of my gaming friends, some not gaming. So we're gonna let this thing run on the scroller. Yeah, you like that? There's Mark chewing down on his fish, and Walt in the background. I'm gonna bust some stones tonight, guys. I guarantee it. So
the funny part actually is I outgrew all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was the little guy way back then, but yeah. And unfortunately lost any of those curls that are being shown up there.
There's Tim at the Renaissance Fair, and those two guys are jousting together, and the crowds are going, "What realism?" And Tim's sitting there going, "This sucks."
How about this change?
Yes. So is that Rumpel Marco? I don't think. Yeah, it could be Rumpel Marco, or it could be. What's his halfling's name? Skeet Marco. There's me, of course, talking about the Queen's Procession. Fish, shut up, Mark. So there you go. That's just some I took right from Adventures Dirty Deeds, and I found.
But you didn't put the one of you that had like the what was it, the 10,000?
10,777 out of place.
Yeah.
So when I've been searching for this, I was rummaging through. I found a lot of cool stuff. I found this article from Discover magazine. It was a science magazine in the 80s. It's from like 1981, talking about how kids were going crazy and going into tunnels and getting lost and stuff. So I found this article. I found this place, which is sunken down now, and Anna knows exactly what this is. This is Alan's original keep. I found Alan's keep adventure with all, and then here's it with it sunk. Everything's damaged and sunk down, and yes, and we'll talk about that too. I found Fortress Elendar, my copy of it, my playable copy. I found Citadel by the Sea, but most of all, I found this folder. Inside this folder is the Skeeve Highport Thief campaign with all his characters and all of Alan's characters for Sam, and also Tim's campaign map for City State of the Invincible Overlord. So I found a gold mine of stuff we can talk about here. Jeff, Fortress Elendar is on our wall of fame. I actually got a sealed copy and on there. Yes. So Arden, that movie Mazes and Monsters came out after that article actually. But Mazes and Monsters, Tom Hanks is absolutely what they were thinking of. So we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about tonight. I know Mark's time's limited, so it may be just Tim and me for the remainder of the evening at some point. But I'll say this: this is all going to be fun, guys. So we're going to jump all over the place on this one. So. Yeah, Jeff, I knew I had to Twitter you on them. I knew you'd get a kick out of it. So why don't we start with something? Let's start with something Mark related.
Sure.
Why don't we start with Alhana, talking about Alhana and her exploits with 2 kills in particular. Now, and tell them about your character, because I don't think they've met Alhana yet.
No, Alhana they have met. She was actually part of the Castle Greyhawk.
We didn't broadcast that.
Yeah, we did.
No, that was before we were. No. Exorcism of the Greyhawk. We weren't streaming then.
Oh, okay.
Nope. How time flies.
I'll explain. So Alhana was a character that I had started off. She's a mage thief. I'd started her off a long time ago, and I don't remember the adventure that it comes from, but I played her once with a bunch of guys that Jay had run an adventure for, some guys, friends of mine that were in high school. And aside from actually this group, before everybody got incorporated together. And she actually got a girdle of ogre strength. And she was just a mage thief. Well, later, I hadn't played her in quite a while, and we were doing a lower level campaign, and I was going through characters, and I ended up finding her. And she was based upon actually somebody that I went to school with. And the only way I could really describe her, the girl that I based her on, she was completely beautiful. Now, not personality, but just her looks. The only thing I can really describe was her eyes were like the color of butterscotch. I've never seen anybody that ever had eyes like that.
Mark's a stalker.
Yeah, that's what,
hey, Brian.
And so I ended up, fashioning her looks after it. And everybody in this adventure that we were running started complaining. And I got sick and tired of all the complaints that were going on. I said, you know what? That's it. I said, I'm going to make the character chaotic neutral. And I started making her into effectively what I guess we would call vamp. Okay. She was kind of, think of, just a complete tease, and just somebody that when she didn't get her way, she would make sure she got her way in some way, shape, or form. So the couple kills I think that Jay is actually talking about was as I kept developing the character further and further, she had a real mean streak to her. And so she started really flirting with a lot of the different men that were in the campaign. And at one point, actually, one of Walt's characters, whose name was Stefan, she took a real shining to him. And he's a ranger cleric, and she is the type that wanted to go out and just corrupt men. That was her whole thought.
She belonged to the Amazons.
Yes. Actually, she should have been one of the Amazons.
Look that picture up.
But at any rate, he was trying to rest and regain spells and stuff, and she purposely kept interrupting him. Was doing all sorts of, I'll just say, deviancy. I'll just put it that way. And really, really, really got under his skin, and he thought he was going to die at the end. But who she actually did kill, I can think of 3.
Yeah.
The first one was a fox woman. Now it was a child, and I had actually experimented a little bit with this, took a little liberty because I was playing two characters. One character was actually defending this child without knowing that it was a fox woman. Then Alhana that knew it was a fox woman. And so as everything was commencing, we had Alhana and my other character were in the very back, and everybody was like rushing up to do this attack. And Jay asked me, "Okay, what does Alhana do?" And I said, "She backstabs the little kid." And everybody just kind of looks at me like completely horrified. Like,
Dreadwood. In Dreadwood.
And I said, "She backstabs the little kid." And Jay just, I mean, he almost had to break out his inhaler because he was just laughing so hard. I said, "Okay, go ahead." And well, she backstabbed the little kid. It totally killed her. And then the party turned on her, and she's like, "Look, it was a fox woman. There was no sense in saving her. She was evil. We're going to get rid of her." You know, and she just went on her merry way.
At least you made it quick.
Yes, he did. Yes, she did. She did.
The second one was an adventure, and at that point, she had been slowly becoming more and more evil. And in our campaign, we really do not play evil characters, but it was the dipping my toe in the water with this one. And so Jay decided to run an adventure for all of the borderline characters, I guess I would call it that way. The ones that were thieves that were kind of borderline neutral and evil and whatever. And we were going into this one spot, and I don't remember all the details of the adventure, but we were going into this one spot, and there was a boggle that was chained to the wall. and Jay just did this. I can't even describe. Jay, you have to do it. Like the noise it was making.
Just hanging against the wall. It was chained there. It was just shackled. It was in that. Yep. It was in that prison where it rotated. It rotated the blocks. And there was only 3 characters on it, and then Alhana just walked right up to it and just didn't even say a word.
Yeah, she was just annoyed by it and just went up and just took it out.
Right up front. Instant death. That was funny too. That was a funny kill.
The third kill that actually happened, and this was a little bit of poetic justice. So we had a player that I won't say his name personally, but he decided, okay, so Jay said it, Wayne, was a guy I went to high school with, and he decided to leave. You know, he just had too many fights with everybody. We were getting kind of sick and tired of his BS as well. And so he had a character that was a fighter mage thief. And Jay was busting his balls at one point because he had created a ring that had an inscription on the inside of it that I'll get to in a second. But at any rate, after Wayne had left, I told him, I said, Alhana is going to go and stalk this character, Adrian.
Arondis.
Yes, Adrian Arondis. And basically waited for him, walked up behind him, backstabbed him without him even knowing that it was even coming. Wayne was never there to defend himself. It really kind of ticked off some of our other players that Jay let me do it, but I did it anyway.
No, but you didn't tell the poetic part.
Well, I'm getting there. So just to make sure that there wasn't any kind of fallback that would happen, she decided to chop him up, and she buried him in like different parts of the world. And the poetic justice was that she took the ring that was there and buried his left hand last and put the ring on his ring finger. Now, the poetic justice behind it is that Wayne at the time was dating a woman whose name was Jackie. And on the inscription of the ring, it just said, "To Jackie from Wayne."
That's just so
wrong. So she decided it was well worth just getting rid of it. And so there's an inside joke a lot of times when we have a new ring and Jay says it has an inscription in it. You usually hear one of us say, "To Jackie from Wayne."
Absolutely. And with Naz's request, who did the Merlin spoon on the orc?
Oh, so Merlin spoon. That was just kind of off the cuff. So I have a character, the class that I had introduced from Dragon Magazine. I worked out with Jay called a Halfling Guardian. He actually, in the first levels that we were doing, went back and rescued one. But if you think of him as kind of like for lack of a better term, like the paladin variant of the Halfling race. But his name is Spooter. And we were, I don't remember all the details of the adventure, but we had captured, in a battle, we had captured somebody, and we were trying to gather information from them. And, you know, all the tactics that everybody always tries, they just weren't getting anywhere. Trying to play good cop, bad cop, whatever. And Jay just decided that he was going to be a complete ass. And he goes, I'm not going to tell you shit. Is how he said it. And I mean, with that kind of head bob as well. And
Yeah.
so I said, okay. So I said, Spooner walks up and opens up his mouth and puts in the Merlin spoon and starts stirring it around.
Yeah, well, instead of torture.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know what a Merlin spoon is, you got to look it up in the Unearthed Arcana. And basically what it says is that if you put it inside of a container and start spinning it, it magically goes and creates this pasty kind of gruel that has a taste of warm, wet cardboard, which is absolutely disgusting.
But it's very nutritious.
The guy's mouth was a container, and so it started filling up, and he was choking all over.
And that was the worst torture of all for him. And he said, "I'll talk." It was because it was so poetic what Mark did. I mean, I was thinking they're going to do something. They're going to cut him up, or they're going to stab him, or they're going to. And no, they just stuck the Merlin spoon in his mouth and started stirring it. It was perfect. But so guys, that's one of your 10 I've gotten to already. So. Let's go back old time. Let's talk about Macarash.
Sure.
Because we all have stories about Macarash the Elf Mauler. He wasn't my first antithesis in the campaign. He was the second one, actually, but he was the one everyone remembers. And Skeeve, Tim's character, Skeeve, and I think you had mostly Jeanette in those, right, Mark?
Yeah, I had Jeanette in that time.
Yeah. So, what's your memory, Tim, besides what you did to him with Macarash?
I just remember, I don't even remember the specific slights he did. He usually would, he'd be the catalyst for an adventure or a problem, and then he would pop in at the end, do something awful, ruin something, hurt us, and get away. And just, I remember the rage of him getting away over and over and over again. So it just made, it was like a vendetta that, and we never did anything to him. It's just that we were the good guys. We were just the good guys foiling his plans. So I just remember, oh man, just getting so just angry at him getting away. I mean, you were really good with a couple of those Nemesis guys hitting us hard and then getting away. And we'd be like, well, I'd be like, so fired up, I'd be really upset.
And Macarash was more of a not direct guy. He was more of an army leader guy. He was the one that was coordinating all the humanoids through the Pomage. So if we talk about, and by the way, I've done a second. I got my first one for, and Anna's seen this one for Gary Khan about the Order of Ulick, and it talks about the Battle of Sorrowful Death and everything that went on in Selene. And then I have a second one that's done for the Shieldlands, and that was all Macarash is doing early on. And we had some great fights, but he always got away in the end until a fight where they actually were fighting Titivalis, the servant of Despater, a high-level mage, and 12 ogre magi, or 8. I think it was 8. 8 ogre.
I remember 16.
I think
16.
It was more like 12. I think it was 12 because I think there were like 8 horned devils.
It was nasty, and it was Monty Hall days. And I don't know whose back that is, by the way, guys. You'll have to guess. Who has who has hot mess tattooed on their back? So I'm busting stones tonight. I know.
Not me.
But
that adventure was like the 12 Days of Christmas. It was like 8 horned devils, 7 something,
Right. It was nasty. Yeah. It was a nasty adventure. But we had some super high level characters on it, and Tim had Skeeve and Florimond. Pete Moss was there from Walt, and I had a lot of high level Knights of Ulick on it as well. And go ahead, Tim, tell us what you did to Macarash in that adventure.
Well, I can't remember if Skeeve had hasted everyone already, But he immediately realized that taking 12 overlapping cones of cold from the Ogre Magi would be a bad proposition. So he dimension doored to the dark corner and kind of repositioned himself because he knew I think he saw Makarash. So he mazed him.
Yep.
The maze spell, because only use use the very best you have to delay, and then imprisoned him.
Yep.
And
That
then
was
used
it.
imprisonment, and that was one of those minor moments of shock from Jay's face because he didn't expect it.
No, I
He's
did
gone.
not, and he was gone from the campaign for
He was
probably a
gone.
year of real time. It was at least a year.
Yeah, something to that degree.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I was plotting my revenge on that, and that adventure was so nasty. A lot of high level knights died permanently.
We were doing funeral arrangements afterwards and monuments to those that died in the fight.
And it was probably, I'm saying,
Lord Flormund.
80. It's got to be 83 or 84. I'm thinking maybe earlier, maybe a little earlier now. I think it was 83. But it was a fun, nasty time, and you guys understand when you're kids, you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Well, you had your prime character. Oh.
Yep, we're good.
And there was Tivolis, I think, was protected by a prismatic sphere,
and he ran through it.
He was talking all sorts of crap to him. But Steve was behind him and whipped out a rod of cancellation.
That's
I've been carrying this around for no purpose, but now it seems relevant.
That's right. He used a rod of cancellation, which works on a sphere of annihilation. Immediately eliminates it. Immediately. I mean, not sphere of annihilation.
Prismatic sphere.
Prismatic sphere. Yeah.
And you did so much damage on him in such a short period of time. And you killed the Mage, and Tivolis took like massive damage.
Yeah.
I think by then you were double hasted, or it was like,
which we allowed back in the old day. It was sick. The stacking of haste is something that was banned by that. Hey, Nixel.
I don't believe banning would be appropriate.
But well, we'll discuss that. But so he was gone. Makarash was eliminated from the campaign, and I was left without an arch nemesis because I don't think Phuket had come around yet. I don't think I had used him yet. So I was on an arch nemesis. Sure? No, I think I brought him in at the same time I brought Makarash back. But
well, yeah, they might have been around. They might have overlapped.
A little overlapping. But what happened? So what happens and this is where the title of
Don't read the book.
Yes, this is where the title of Don't Read the Book comes from. So I had a sage send Mark and all his, I'm sorry, I don't want to sound mean, flunky friends that were playing.
Idiots.
There was a crew of them on an adventure. And the sage said, you need to recover this book for me. It's of utmost importance. But whatever you do anything else, do not read the book. Okay. And this was Swain. And a couple other characters. Yes, Anna, we've all had those kind. And I knew I had him perfectly set up.
Jay set him up
perfectly because this was an adventure called There Are Many Unpleasant Ways to Die, and in it people can get disintegrated. It's kind of like a Tomb of Horrors almost, but two of them got imprisoned. And when you are a self-preservationist player, you're going to do whatever you can to get your character out of that situation. I just knew this was going to happen.
Well, and it was a specific demon. There's a demon that has that ability.
Was it a Styx devil? Doesn't a Styx devil do it? There's a Styx devil. Hey, Evil. How are you? Good to see you, Evil Cheese. Stick around, man. Hang out. We're talking old school gaming now, man. Go ahead, Mark. Tell. So Swain got knocked. It was unconscious at the end of the fight.
Yes.
1E2E, man.
Yeah. He
throw us a follow, please. Good.
Yeah. So Swain. This was the very first time that he actually had a lead position where he was in charge of the party, and he ended up getting knocked unconscious by something. There was like a bounty hunter or something that was running around, and So he was completely out cold. So good play style. Obviously, I couldn't say anything. And so a couple of the other players, their characters got touched by the Styx Devil and got imprisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And the Styx Devil then said something to the degree of, yeah, you're never going to get them back except by the book. And so they thought that they were going
Lie.
to. Well, of course it was a lie. So the attitude behind it was, oh, well, all we need to do is just get to the book. And the actual Michael Baton, the real life Michael Baton was there.
Real life Michael Baton. There's a real person
there. And he said, don't do it. Just, you know what he said, don't do it.
He's a devil.
So Wayne's character decided to talk another guy. His name was Drew, not the same Drew that you saw in the
Sleepy Drew.
Sleepy Drew, as they called him. So Sleepy Drew somehow got over to the pedestal where the book is, thinking they were really smart, and picked it up and threw it over to Wayne's character.
Because the devil was still alive at this point. Yeah.
Yes. And so Jay gave him the option. He asked him. He said, "So what do you do?" He says, "I open up the book and I start reading it." It's like, we got to get our characters back.
This will free him.
And at first I was like, okay, well, something bad is going to happen. And then it was like it hit me. And I looked over, and I just looked like this over to Jay. And he had like the worst grin you can just imagine on his face.
Yep.
And I go, oh my God, did they just do what I think they did? And he just gave me this knowing look. And all I could think of was, oh, Tim is going to come home. He's going to take this out on me. I'm going to have to be the one that tells them that this happened.
So they got their characters back. But in that, it was a mass freedom spell. They freed Macarash from his imprisonment. He's back. Yeah. So I set them up, hook, line, and sinker.
Take a moment to discuss my feelings when I found that out.
Yes, let's do that, Tim.
Sure.
This is 1986 or 7 or 8.
I was at college.
Yeah,
I think I heard about it before I got home. And I just remember it's a game, it's for fun, but just to have somebody do something so just clearly stupid with so much more ramifications for future pain and suffering for us playing, I was really, 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 really
violent,
really angry. I was like, I know I shouldn't want to, but I sure would like to really hurt them.
I distinctly remember us being in your house and your parents' house, and you dropping to the floor and just wailing, no.
So that is, in a nutshell, what the title of this episode is, and it's going to be all old school Monty Hall stories, and it's a great one.
So boys and girls, don't read the book.
Don't read the book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And here's another rule. Hey, if a Styx Devil tells you something, don't trust them.
So before Mark has to depart, I want to say this. We're gonna announce this at the end of the episode. I have a super special guest next week. Someone who's renowned and respected, and everyone wants to play at his table as a DM at conventions, old schooler. He's going to be on next week, so sit tight, and I'll give you that announcement. And I also have something special giveaway-wise for next week. For all of our subs are going to automatically get it, and a bunch of our followers will get this as well. So we'll talk about it at the end of the episode, but just hang in there, guys. So this is getting some, we've had Anna on, which is as big as it gets. We've had Brian on last week, and next week we got another huge name in the world of Greyhawk and the world of Dungeons and Dragons. So, Mark, you hang out for like 10 minutes, you think? Give me 10.
Yeah,
give me 10. All right, we're going to talk another Mark story before he has to go. Okay? Brian didn't agree to be on. Yeah, okay. Good one, Brian. Good one, man. Hey, you're doing a great job moderating on Thursdays too. I appreciate it. I added him as a moderator. And Mark and Walt have been out a little bit. So yeah, I wish Gary, but this one's pretty good too. Let's talk real quick. You got anyone you wanted to bring up, Mark? You want yourself?
Yeah. So the one story that
Amazon's.
No, it's not
Okay.
Amazon.
Okay.
The one story I want to talk about is so my senior year of high school actually occurred here where I'm at in Ohio, in the same town actually that I live in now. So I found out the summer between my junior and senior year that I was actually my family decided that they wanted to pick up and move from southern New Jersey to northeast Ohio. And so a couple of years afterwards, and I had always kept in contact with everybody, they all decided to pile into a van and take a trip, basically a 7 to 8 hour trip across Pennsylvania and come over, and they stayed at my mother's house.
I know the story.
And we had a absolute mega adventure. And Tim, actually, from what I understand, you had just got home either the
military
night before or the next morning, and unfortunately you weren't able to come with them.
He was coming out of Benning. He came from Benning because he was in his Ranger training, I think, at the time, or something like that.
Something to that degree.
I don't remember.
But at any rate, we had a absolute mega adventure that occurred at that point in time.
It was in the Vespy Forest.
Yes, but it's not the adventure that's the actual story that I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the fact that actual in that adventure, one of Alan's characters, Herbie the White, who you've seen in some of the streams that we've talked about, ended up getting killed again
by Sir Twix.
Third adventure
in a row.
And so we finally, basically gave up for the evening. We were done and so forth.
Let's not. That is an adventure, real quick, where we summoned whoever was to win that battle was to summon the master of the hunt and his pack, and you could hear them in the distance, and every round they got closer and closer and closer and closer. So don't forget that. And so the master of the hunt was coming with his pack in the middle of the Vespy Forest. A great story in the Deities and Demigods. So at the end of that, Phuket was there, our little halfling illusionist assassin, and
no illusionist assassin.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. Jeez, that's how old I'm getting. No illusionist assassin, and the pack went after him, and he took off, and that was all they saw of him the rest of that night. Now go ahead.
Okay. So, hold on, I'm answering here. Yes, it was Herbie the Dipped, Naz.
Yes, it is.
At any rate, so we decided to bunk down for the night, and Jay and Walt actually stayed in my room, and the other guys, and nobody else was in the house. The other guys stayed in a couple of the other rooms. And so we're just getting ready to go to sleep, and all of a sudden we just hear, like a bunch of footsteps and stuff, and something that sounded like, "We're coming to kill you, Jay." And here comes Alan. Now you've seen, like you can tell in that picture that is up there. Alan is like the tallest out of all of us.
6'4".
All of us, 6'4". He comes in, and Jay tries to be really, really smug about stuff, and Alan has a pillow wrapped around his hand. So he somehow or another he winds up pinning Jay down, and he says, "Say you're sorry for killing Herbie." And Jay and yes, 18 intelligence but 3 wisdom, decides to be smug at the real wrong time. He's like, "No." And so Alan punches him in the face and just basically tries smothering him with a pillow. And just continues. Says, "Sorry, say you're sorry for killing Herbie." "No." Pow. "Say you're sorry for killing Herbie." "No." Pow.
Yeah, they also Gomer piled me down too.
Yes.
Forgot that part.
Alan did. That was just Alan.
Yeah, well.
That was just Alan.
Yeah.
So at any rate, as the story actually continues, my mother happens to be a professional designer, and so there's always stuff of the trade.
Having a rough
scissors and fabric and needles and pins and all sorts of stuff that's always around. So somehow or another, everything got moved. The battle, so to speak, got moved into her sewing room, and Jay wasn't wearing any shoes, and all of a sudden just crumples and cries out, "Oh my God!"
Stepped on a
And
pin.
we're all like, "What the hell happened?" And, he brings his foot up, and he's got a pin halfway stuck in the back of his heel. And just, it was like the worst like shriek that I've ever heard in my entire life. And so he unfortunately was limping for like the rest of the time that they were there until they had to.
Yeah, that was a bad one. So everyone, Carlos Slicing is on. Say hello to Carlos. He'll be hopefully watching for the rest of the show.
Hey, Carlos, how you doing?
Yep.
Now, the third part of that story, and I was not even there to hear it directly. But as part of that story, as they're driving back, one of the gentlemen that played with us for a while was named Gary. And Gary, he always kind of thought on a completely different plane of existence than the rest of us do. And so from what I understand, there were all sorts of different conversations that were going on in the van as they're driving back. Once again, they got about 7 to 8 hours. And out of the blue, Gary says, I wonder if the sun exploded, if people on the dark side of the earth last 2 seconds longer, 3 seconds longer than people that were on the light side of the earth. So that has always been an inside joke as well. You may hear us say it from time to time, if the sun exploded, sort of a thing. And of course, collectively, from what I understand, like an entire chorus, you just heard, "Shut up, Gary."
Gary was like the dude who he was at every party in college, and he'd be in the corner. He'd be the guy just observing, smoking the cigarette, and he would never say hello to anyone. But if you walked up to him, you'd have a great conversation with him. But he was like that mystery guy, and he had some really interesting characters, which we still have to this day. I still have all the
ordinarily
sheets.
brilliant. I mean, he's a very, very smart guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be just sitting in the corner, just minding his own business, just observing, not saying much, but one of the nicest guys in the world you'd ever want to know. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so I think I filled my quota.
Yeah.
All the funny stories.
I know Mark has to depart early, and it'll be Tim and me finishing up the stream here. But I know. No, it was just an unbelievable. That was weekend number 2, and weekend number 1 was down, and Tim was on that one down in Virginia. Hopefully, we'll get to some stories on that one. I'm just looking to see if there's any main ones here that Mark.
If you give me an opportunity to do a quick one, I'll finish up.
Were you there for the pit? No, we're jumping in the pit.
No,
Atrocity White. Were you there for the Atrocity White?
I was, but I don't remember. I remember what it is, but I don't remember the details behind it.
So the Atrocity White was. I had this big. If you know what an Atrocity White is, it's like dozens and dozens of corpses that come together to form this big like golem thing, huge. And I did an adventure with the Ravagers. It was and Bill Haley, Bill the Master Crafter, was there, and I have this nipper from RCA. It's like this, right? And so I'm using that on the table, and this is at my old house. It's the Atrocity White. This is the only time Bill's ever snapped. He's playing, and he's like, I can't do this. And he gets up, stands up, and he walks out. And we're like, where the hell did he go? Because that's not Bill's personality, if you know Bill. And he just walked out, and we didn't see him the rest of the night. I was like, what the? So he got Atrocity Whited. And so, Bill, I got some stuff to show for Bill and Jeff from Mark's channel. I got some later on. We'll show some pictures, and I don't know who those dudes are up there now, but I had some other things going on. But yeah, it's the Atrocity White was a big one. I never understood why he still to this day can't explain what happened, but he snapped and just walked out. Now the other Bill,
I'll give you 2 quick.
So many dead bodies.
I'll give you 2 quick ones, Jay, because I'm looking at our notes, and Naz brought one up, so I'll talk very, very quickly about them. I had David. You know about David Gradavis, but he is actually David Gradavis II.
Yeah, tuna fish.
Yes, David Gradavis I was a character I had started from first level, just a straight cleric. I mean, that's still all 1E type of adventuring. And at some point or another, just to make a long story short, he ended up getting, he failed a saving throw. He's like 9th or 10th, I think 11th level. No, he's actually 11th level. And somehow or another managed to get paralyzed or held or unconscious or whatever. And in typical Jay fashion, when it happens to all my characters, you've heard me complain about it before. We're joking, of course. Jay decides that he's going to utilize a monster which is known as a Juggernaut, which is out of the Temple of Elemental Evil, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you are right.
Basically, what it is if you, what I think of it is if you think of playing chess, and the chess piece that is a rook, that's just a horse, or not a rook. It's a combination of a rook and a knight. Is from what I get.
Kind of looks like, yeah, you're right, absolutely, a rolling one on wheels.
And it's on wheels.
On rollers.
And it has these feet that basically shoot out. Well, its main thing is if it gets ahead of steam and literally starts rolling down, it does like, what is it, 100 to 200?
10 to 100.
10 to 100.
That doesn't even count as attacks. That's a crush.
Yeah. Right. It has 4 pseudopods.
Yep. And so effectively what happens is David is laying there prone and Jay runs over him.
What? Not one.
This is a character I've had for the better part of about maybe 10 or 12 years, and he just takes it and kind of throws the character away. Now, it wasn't so bad about the fact that he rolled over him once, but he was kind of in a valley, and so it gathered a little bit of momentum and went back up a hill and then rolled backwards and rolled over him again.
Hey.
So now David, of course, was wearing at the time, plate mail was the heaviest type of armor that we had, and so I started making a joke about calling him tuna fish.
Yes.
Just because it just got crushed and basically made a can of tuna fish.
Yes, as Austin Powers scene, but I can see it happening in slow motion too, because it's just like the second time you get run over by Juggernaut, it just is like, and stuff is oozing out all the plate mail. You know, I can see that. It's pretty gross. And I was, and I have this noted down. I have down here my overkill destruction of Marco's PC's tuna fish down here. I feel bad now. I mean, Mark was really a glutton for punishment back in the day. I don't know why. It just happened that way. Yeah. So, but now everyone gets disgusted now, but because all of our characters now interacting in these love fests. You know, because David Granavis finally married Ashley Winchester after all these years.
Yep.
You have Copus and
Heather.
What's that?
Copus and Heather.
Copus and Heather. Carlos.
There you go.
Yes.
He got inspired by
the love stories.
All of my grief, Carlos. So thank you so much for following anyway.
Yes, and Carlos hopefully will be around a lot more, and we'll talk about that a little later too, with some other stuff. Carlos is part of our future Greyhawk group, along with Anna, Greyhawk Mike, and Grow Dog and all the others. So, but tuna fish and love fests, and we have some other. All right.
I got one last one
that
I share right before I go. So I apologize for making it an early night, but unfortunately, life kind of has to take its toll.
Tim and I can handle it.
But at any rate, from time to time, when I wasn't running like my own stuff, from time to time, Jay would allow us to be the actual DM in the Knights of Eula campaign. And so I had run an adventure that was basically to kind of take some of the characters' egos down a few notches, because they would just basically mull through everything. And one of the things that I had done was to kind of take them down a couple notches was I had read there was a Dragon Magazine article about different types of trap doors.
Oh, God.
And the one thing that I always loved,
I remember this.
Matt brought this out. He was the one that asked about it.
Yep.
Was I encased a wraith inside of the door. And so basically anytime anybody tried to touch the door, unlock the door, open the door, they got touched by the door. And, well, basically it took a level. And so it affected one of Bill Reese's characters, I think like 3 levels, because he was a glutton for punishment as well.
And he was there when Makaresh was freed too, wasn't he?
Of course he was.
Yes.
Of course Bill Reese was there.
Good. All right, go ahead.
Of course he was.
At any rate, I always liked putting in things that, yes, may have seemed extraordinarily mean, but they were also things that weren't part of the classic game, so that you had to think a little bit before you actually acted. And they figured it out eventually, that it was just a simple wraith that was inside of the door. So,
That's next, Carlos. We're going to get into that in depth with Tim and me talking about that.
Okay.
Mark.
Well, thank you for indulging me. I appreciate it. Once again, my apologies for cutting out early, but everybody have a fantastic night. Enjoy the stories. I'm sure you will hear all sorts of additional ones. I'm sure that they're probably going to bust my stones after I leave anyway, so more than likely it's true.
No, only good stuff. Only good stuff, Mark.
Mark, yeah, are you going to be on Thursday?
Yes, I will be there Thursday.
Good. Ladayden's a must, so just to let you know. So it's going to be a good one.
Problem.
All right,
Everybody
Mark.
have yourself a fantastic night. We will see you later.
See you soon.
All right.
Tim should take up that whole screen now. Uh-oh, it didn't work. It didn't. Let me get Mark off here somehow if I can.
I'm leaving.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay, he just turned it off. All right, so there. Look at that big screen picture of Tim now. All right, so Carlos has a great question about Gazumba. Used to be just Gazumba, Lord Gazumba, because he's head of the knighthood. Here's the thing, Carlos. When we started playing back when we were in high school, the campaign was kind of fluid at that point. I DM'd for a lot of them, but we had our first generation of characters, which is our old school. They're all named after ourselves. This is before I met Tim. I had known my friend Alan and a couple other guys, but I met Tim and Walt. And there's a picture of Tim in his armor up there with his dad in the background with his helm on, playing D&D. So that's at my basement in my old house.
It was a return from a trip. I was away and came back, and so I wanted to surprise him.
Tim spent a lot of years in the military too, guys. So thank him for his service. He did a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of tours, a lot of stuff. So Tim, I know everyone thanks you for your service, man. I do, especially. I know it was a rough time. Gazumba was in my campaign, an NPC to my campaign, but when Tim DM'd, I played a character with him. So I had two characters, Hawk and Gazumba. If you scroll down on the screen, there's a picture of Hawk, Gazumba, and Fonky and Hottie Peak. On the panels below, it says, "Who was Lord Gazumba?" And excellent, Evil Cheese, excellent. Tim was in the Army, retired a lieutenant colonel. So he was badass. But you were badass, dude. You were badass. So
I'm still badass.
Yeah, you are. You kicked my ass. So Hawk Gazumba and Tim would play his characters Fensick and Leuven, and we want to get into some stories about this. And a lot of times it was just the four of us. Mark would be playing a character occasionally, or Walt would be playing a character occasionally, but a lot of times it was just four characters in there. So Gazumba's a fighter clerk mage, Hawk's a fighter thief, so we have those classes covered. Fensick was a straight mage, and Leuven was a straight thief. And they were his two. And by the way, Fensick and Leuven, you will see on March 23rd in the mega stream. He's going to be playing them for the first time in probably 15, 20 years, along with Anna playing Mariel. Yes, so we're going to have some fun with that. So, and that's that's only a month away, man. Time flies on that. So, he was brought up from first, and there's two main adventures I remember that Tim DM'd for me with Fensick and Leuven as NPCs, and I had Hawk and Gazumba as PCs. The number one was one that Tim did himself, and I even created an homage adventure to it afterwards, and it was called The Wizard of Id. And it was a long... Nice, Carlos. Glad to hear that, Desert Storm Vet. We appreciate your service. We appreciate Evil Cheese's service. I respect the hell out of you guys. That's awesome. So the Wizard of Id was a...
Here, give me a... Hey, I'm sorry, I got to step away. Just 30 seconds. I'll be back.
No problem. I'll keep talking. The Wizard of Id was a mega adventure Tim ran. And he had all sorts of crazy traps in it, teleporter rooms. And this is the joke. If we ever hear us talking about invisible skeletons and plate mail, this is from that module that Tim had, and that's the ball busting. Oh my God, you're gonna throw skeletons and plate mail that are invisible against us. So that comes from Tim in this adventure, The Wizard of Id. Right. So we're talking about the invisible skeletons and plate mail, Tim. Right. in the Wizard of Id.
Say again.
The invisible skeletons of plate mail. Yes. Okay. Now you know. And he also had the yellow brick road. There was a yellow brick road through the entire thing, multiple levels, and you were told don't step off the yellow brick road, right? Because you didn't want that to happen. Well, we didn't do that. We found out it would teleport you. It would plane shift you. It could have plane shifted you anywhere. So fortunately, we didn't step off the yellow brick road. This fight went on. This adventure went on for a while.
I'm on. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, this is my daughter.
Hi,
she
Valerie.
was locked out. That's why I had to get up and open and let her in.
My bad.
It's okay. Carlos, this is a 1E game at this point. I don't think TWE's out yet. This is like 83, 80. This is like 83, I think. We're talking.
Yeah,
this is a 1E game. Magic user. So, like I said, fighter, cleric, mage, fighter, thief, magic user, and a thief. That's it. All base classes at that time. And at the end, the Wizard of Id was a little crazy. He was a 30th level mage.
Yeah, the premise is the guy got so advanced and powerful, he went insane. And so there was a lot of things in there that made no sense. You know, obviously the wizard thought they made sense when he gave the edict, you know, to his people to do something.
Yes.
And they would be guarding something, or they didn't know why they were doing it. So there was a lot of odd things that were in there.
And the last fight against the Wizard of Id was nasty, but Tim would randomize spells from his list, so he could cast light, or he could cast rocks. You got me by 2 years, man. He could cast any crazy spell. Well, near the end of the fight, we're all beat up really bad. And Fensick does this crazy thing, and he's like, the ironies of it were like, I don't know what level Fensick was. Maybe 9th at that time. Maybe. I don't think he was that high.
Maybe 9th to 11th. I'm thinking 11th for some reason came to my head, but I don't know.
Because he's 15th now. Yeah. But he says, I'm going to prep a Dispel Magic just in case. I'm out of spells. I'm going to prep a Dispel Magic. I'm out of offensive spells. And I'm just going to wait. And if I cast something I think it's nasty, I'm going to try and dispel it.
Well, we were stuck behind a wall of force.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot that part of it. Yeah. You loved walls of force
all the time. That he could shoot through.
Yeah, I forgot that aspect of it. I forgot how torturous this was.
It was bad.
But so he cast a fireball at 30th level at us. Now, if you do the calculations of Dispel Magic between 11th level and 30th level, that's 19 levels times 2%, 38% off of it's 2% below. So I thought it was lower than that, but we had like a 10% chance of dispelling it.
I think it was in the single digits. It might have been high single digits.
I think you were 8th or 9th, man. I think you were 9th.
It was low.
It was 9th. It was 9th. We had an 8% chance of dispelling the spell. Yes, 8%. And I said, I'm rolling it because it's life or death for a lot of us here. And 0-1. Woo!
Well, I remember the wall was dispelled. Everyone charged forward. Fensick was like, yeah. And then he took the 30 hit die fireball.
That's what happened. You're right.
Yeah. And burned up most of his magic items and scrolls at the time.
Yeah, that's right. We dispelled. You're right. We dispelled it was one or the other.
Everyone charged at him, and he didn't have a chance because he was too insane to keep it up. You know?
But Fensick had a ring of regeneration, so it made it save, and he came back. And Fensick was a crazy character. Let's get on to so I homage that. I call it the Wizard's Stidge. It's one of my favorite homegrown adventures I ever made. It was only 3 levels. It wasn't like Id was like 6 or 7. And I homage. It was like 5th, 6th level, and I did a lot of homages to Tim, and that was one of them. Because, I took a lot of, like I said, in our DM discussion with Anna and a couple of the other people we had about, 3 weeks ago, I said I took a lot of inspiration from the crazy shit that Tim does.
My fertile imagination.
Absolutely. But his character Fensick, when I first met him, go ahead, discuss the item.
Okay. Again, somebody else is DMing, and one of the magic items they received was called a lightning rod. But in the write-up from this other DM, if he held it out, it would absorb, obviously, the electrical-based spells, but also as the DM wrote up, fire-based spells as well. Now, I understand it says lightning rod. That doesn't make sense, but that's what they wrote. And so when I tried to defend myself with it, I took a lot of stuff from Jay saying, "Oh, that's crazy, whatever." But hey, you got to try, right? And that's what the other DM wrote on the magic item. So that's what I was trying to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so here comes, and if you guys have been watching online, we have two things we call it. We call it Tim abuse and Alan abuse. And they're slightly different. Tim takes things, Alan repeats things as abuse. Tim tries to stretch the abilities. You know, he does different things. Alan's
Try to
repeat.
adapt and overcome.
Yeah, Alan's a repeat one. Yeah. So I remember I was DMing, and he had Fencing always has his lightning rod out, right? He always has it out and was offhand. And
Yeah.
so it absorbs lightning bolts, of course. And then so the evil mage in the adventure casts a fireball. And then Fencing goes, it absorbs the fireball. And I had this look on my face that I have now. I'm like, it's a fucking lightning rod, dude. It doesn't absorb fireballs.
That doesn't talk about its specifications, really.
Yes, Naz, no, I'm not cheating. So I said, no. So the no just no head, if we had that here, would have been out 1,000 times. And that's why the no just no head exists. So, yeah.
But that is how it was written, and it wasn't written by me.
I know.
There we go.
The DM I took creative license to eliminate that ability.
Well, it just stopped working, didn't it?
It's, well, yeah. And you still have this item to stay. And on Anna's map, let me scan through real quick here. We'll go to, whoops, I went right by it because I'm a fool. Altamir, north of that, you see Lightning Rod Tower in the middle, down about 1.5 inches. That's Skeeve's Keep that has been placed on by Anna. Thank you. And that's his character, Skeeve, Lightning Rod Tower. He's got a big lightning rod on it. So that's the story about it, Anna. Now you know. So, but thank you for putting it on that. And yes, so that's a good one. The other
still
adventure
works for lightning, though, right?
Absolutely. You may need that on the 23rd.
Yes.
Second adventure is a classic Dark Tower Tim ran. A mega module. I think we did it in like 2 nights.
I honestly, I remember the module, but I don't remember the specifics of how things happened. And I don't,
Well, Tim ran this one, and if anyone knows about Dark Tower, it's a Judges Guild module, and it's all about set, right? Minions is set, and they have these Sons of Set that are all mutated and stuff. And it's like 8 levels down. Then you find the tower entrance, and then 8 levels up inside the tower. It's a long mega module, and it's a dungeon crawl of epic proportions, like Judges Guild did. So the things I remember from it, fighting all the Sons of Set with Gazumba and Hawk and Fezzik and Leuven, and the other thing I remember is at the very beginning, the town folk are all nice to you and stuff, but they're all cultists. And then they all come out, and they start attacking you. And a lot of them are like 0 level first. I'm like, what are you guys doing? We don't want to kill you, but you're forced to kill the whole town, basically.
Because they're chaotic evil. They've been living for 300 years.
Yeah, that's true. Because, and so you feel bad, but you don't, for slaughtering a whole town. I mean, that's the crazy thing when you think about it. You felt bad about killing off townspeople, but they just deserved it in this case. And that was another cool story. Let's talk about Leuven and his hatred and fear of undead, and that story you told me.
Okay.
Leuven's his 17th level thief, halfling.
Right. He's a halfling. He's very stupid, but has a lot of common sense. He's not, not a lot of IQ, but he's real good at what he does and has some common sense, and so he does okay. And we were on an adventure which mostly was just role playing. Was that going to a tournament? I think, right? It was a tournament, and there was there's a number of subplots, but one of them was this young girl who seemed like she was in a domestic violence situation with her father. Her father seemed really kind of overbearing. She's like, "Oh, I can't do that, my father." We'd see him at dinner, at the events, and he was really kind of overbearing, and he was cute and seemed like she needed a lot of help. we're like, something's up here, something's going on, whatever. So I know, I had a paladin was my other character, and the paladin is like thinks this young poor thing
Galahad.
needs some assistance. Yeah, and he wants, he's being chivalrous. And Leuven says, "Well, I think I'll go ahead and check it out." So of course he gets in there. I mean, no problem. And he's under the bed, and he sees this weird long box under the bed. And he's reaching in, he's trying to open the box, and he opens the box, and Jay's like, "You see her father laying there," and he's like, "Huh?" And then he goes, and he grabs you, and it was a vampire. So the vampire tried to grab him, and that was the drama. The girl was feeling so like trying to take care of her father, but afraid of him, and that was the tension we were all picking up. But it was a vampire, and Leuven was under the bed with this thing, and he freaks out, screams like a little girl halfling, and tries to get out of there. He didn't lose a level; he barely got away. And then I think that Galahad was I think the paladin was nearby, and I think he jumped through the window. I think he came running, jumped through the window, and ended up slaughtering the vampire. But then the girl's like, "You killed my father."
Yeah, she was mad. Yeah.
It was a mess, but it was.
I threw that in there as a sidebar to what was going on, and that's the whole thing. And it was a great little shocking, because he hates undead. Leuven does.
Well, Leuven, I wrote down on the character sheet, fears or hatreds. Vampires. They scare me.
Because Leuven's got low intelligence. But here's the funny thing about Leuven. Leuven's super high level, and Alan's got this character Sam, original name for a halfling thief, right? So Leuven is, no matter how much Sam gets in experience, Leuven's always one level higher than him. So if Sam makes it to 17th, Leuven magically is 18th now. And it drives Alan crazy. Another little Jayism. But he's always one level higher than Sam to this day. So I got my ways of poking people. So Naz has a question. We talked about paladins and anti-paladins in the 3-stage poison. So in the day, Tim, and I told you about this in the DM's discussion before Tim came on.
Back in the day.
This is the city-state of the Invincible Overlord map. These are all the states out here. This is a city-state here. Okay. My character, I had 2 characters, Devilia, a lawful neutral human female cavalier, and Kixano, who was kind of like my Gazumba light. He's like, but he wasn't like as good as Gazumba. I had a fighter clerk mage. They get invited to this big party in the city-state
because they conquered this arch villain. They took over his lands and power, so they're kind of like they're entering higher status.
So
they're invited to the estate party.
Naz, wait to hear this story. This is all Tim. So we go, start mingling. Everyone's so nice. Kixano's having this great time. The host comes up, and he's like, Tim's like playing him. "Hey, Kixano, I've heard a lot about you." And all of a sudden, and he's like, "This is wonderful." And he says, "You know what? Don't go in the back room. Whatever, you just hang out up here." So they're serving food and drink, right? Really good stuff, high-end stuff. There's a special back room, and you walk back there, and there's this mist in the back, and there's people in the back room. They're like puke, like frothing at the mouth. I was like, "What the hell's going?" Go ahead, Tim. Tell the story.
Incense. It's special incense.
Yeah.
So the guy who invited him to the party was an anti-paladin who was a neighbor, and he had neighboring estates, and he had a bunch of people there. And in the course of the conversation and seeing what's going on, it suddenly dawned on Jay that everyone at the party but him are evil. And he's like, "They're evil." It was the greatest moment to see that on his face. Yeah. It was precious. And evil doesn't necessarily mean rude or impolite.
So that is the first time an anti-paladin used the 3-stage poison, Naz. And Tim, I gotta give Tim credit for it. Right out of that article in Dragon 39, he's the first. Once again, I don't want to take credit for it. I've used it twice. I used it with 2 anti-paladins. One was Lord Mastrine's daughter, Anna. Anna's big on Lord Mastrine, but his daughter was an anti-paladin who suckered them in. And there was another one out in the Wild Coast area as well. I used earlier, but Tim did it way better than I ever did. The shock value of it was just, yeah. Well, so Naz, I don't know what you need to do about that 5e thing, man. So good does not equal nice, but that was a great story. I was shocked out of my britches on that one. Very good one. Very good one. So let's talk.
He's just being a good neighbor.
Absolutely. I had a lot of fun in that campaign. I told everyone that was my favorite campaign outside of the campaign we run when I asked that question. That was it was before you had gotten on. So let's see. Next one. Let's talk about your creation that I have taken to a new level. The mongrels of the putrid tongue. Explain them to us, please.
I think when I first ran these, it was in the city state, I think, but the concept was a tribe of half things, half orc, half goblin, half hobgoblin, half just mongrels, of just all sorts of mishmash of different humanoids and humans and demi, as best they can all mingle, and creating sort of a tribal cult-like enemy. You're not sure exactly what their goals were, initially, but they were particularly disturbing for morale. And that is because if a character got knocked down to they're down, they're not dead
Negatives.
yet.
Zero.
In the negatives,
unconscious.
They had special tools. They had a tongue tool that was a special curved and jagged knife that they would go in there and they would take the tongue, which for psychological shock value was precious.
So they didn't want to kill people. They wanted the tongues. So and Tim would show, especially the people he didn't like, he would show the descriptive nature of how the tool would wrap around the tongue and the blade in the back would snip the tongue out. Very descriptive and very disturbing. Yeah.
No such tool exists as far as I know, just so you know. It's
right.
Just fiction.
But
they also had a special morale affecting shield.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of their shaman had, they'd taken these tongues and nailed them and tacked them to a shield and animated them with animate dead. So the tongues would all be moving and undulating on this shield, which is again a shocking, horrifying thing.
And the more tongues you had, the higher your status was, basically.
Yeah.
So, but Tim took it to a shock value. And then I think Tim was away, so I was like, this is a freaking great idea. So when I first started the Iron Brigade in Greyhawk, they fought against mongrels all the time. But I took it one step further. I had the interbreeding was a science to them more. So they had the tongue tool part, but the thing about the mongrels in my campaign was, how do you breed an orc with an elf? That was the key. They worked on that for years, because it says right in the monster manual, orcs and elves can't breed, right? They can't produce. So they were working on that for years and years and years. And it had Junior, one of the arch nemesis was half orc, half halfling, right? There was all sorts of different. Yeah, there was all sorts of different baddies. The final baddie, who happened to just be named Mitch Cumstein, I looked it up. I was like, oh my god, that's what I named him. Was the trick was for the mongrels, an elf drow. Half elf, half drow could breed with an orc. So an elf drow character that had 50% elf blood, 50% drow blood could breed and mingle with an orc. And that's what he was. Half elf drow, half orc. And that's where it got to it. So and yeah, I know. But they were like half orc, half centaur, crazy stuff. It was very disgusting. But I brought them back a couple times in some adventures and some streams we've done. Once again, this is an homage to Tim. It was not
and what about the chosen one?
Yeah, the chosen one was Junior. Half a halfling, half orc. And this is a good story, and we've told this before. Tim's dad, his dad John, who plays, his character Petronius, he's the highest level druid brought up in from first in the campaign, and he's a member of the Iron Brigade. He's a druid thief, halfling. They killed Junior. What does John do to the shock of everyone? He cuts off Junior's ball sack, and he makes a tobacco bag out of it.
Nothing says you've been vanquished more than that.
Yes, but in the adventure Mongrel Resurrection, like 5 years later, they came and they stole the tobacco bag and they resurrected him.
Because all they needed.
Yes. So Junior got resurrected in an adventure, and that was from a tobacco bag. The ironies of life, right? So you'll see some more of the Mongrels of the Putrid Tongue, because I love Lossels.
Always burn them to ash.
Yeah.
Don't keep any trophies.
That's Tim being paranoid too. But it was perfect. It was poetic, So that was a good one. As we're on disturbing things, I'm going to tell this story, and I don't remember who I had on this adventure. I wish I did. I'm walking down the steps with a character once into a dungeon, and Tim's DMing, and there's a guy flat on a slab, all fours. Go ahead.
Wizard of Id.
It was the Wizard of Id.
It was the Wizard of Id. One of the first rooms they go in, this guy had made the wizard mad.
Go ahead, tell the story.
He's tied down on a slab, and he wants to punish him. So he has somebody whipping his feet, but he has zombies whipping his feet, and zombies never get tired, and they never stop.
You're disturbed.
And they keep whipping and whipping, and so his feet were being whipped off.
That's really gross.
But it created a psychological effect that stuck.
Yes, to this day, it stuck with me. I was like, two zombies, Yes, someone getting their feet whipped off is a thing I can never get out of my brain or mind.
That's
Tim.
horrible. But that guy was not a good guy either. So
I understand that, but it was a shock value thing. You did it perfectly. I had to tell that story. That was a good one. Let's see. Do we have any out there? Tim, we got. Naz brought this one up in his list, and I kind of told this story. Tell us about your witch, and Fensick and Gazumba and Fensick were last two left fighting.
I had a
High Secret Order witch.
A High Secret Order witch, which it was a Dragon magazine character, and the High Secret Order witches are bad. They heinous. And I was running an adventure I actually had run at college, and this adventure in college ended a campaign by accident because they didn't succeed. So we re-rolled new people up next semester. But so Jay and Gazumba have to fight him, and so they blast her or something, and then a little girl comes around the corner.
Yeah,
little person, and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" But boom, she starts hitting them with all sorts of stuff. And the High Secret Order witch had a magic jar, and she had a little area where she kept people she could possess easily. So they would kill her, and she would just take a new body. And they'd come around and they'd kill her, kill the body, and then she would just pick another one. So it took a little while to figure something out, but they did.
Yeah, but you forgot the Juggernauts too.
Oh well, yes, she was in her special chamber, so she had it all rigged for her.
Multiple Juggernauts, and we had to all force them off, and then Zor was there too. Yeah, we had to kill Zor too. It was a mess, man, and I was like, that was the most. Did you ever feel like when you played an adventure, and you feel mentally and physically drained, and you just want to crash because you've had a rough day at work, or you've had like a rough test, or you've studied? I felt like I got cornholed, and I was like, ugh! I was mentally and physically drained. There's Tom. Hey, Tom, good to see you. I was mentally and physically drained after that. I mean, that was the most mentally pulled I was.
And I think Zor wrote a nightmare, and he had a lance of disintegration. So if the lance tip hit you,
Yeah.
if you fail to save, you're taking 10, 100 disintegration. So that killed some people in my college campaign also.
Yeah, and that was. I think we figured it out after about 7 or 8 bodies. I figured it out finally because you had the NPC. We got to go and destroy all these other bodies. She's just going to keep on getting in bodies, and she still has spells left. And it took a while. It was nasty, but
I forget you had to get to another chamber. And once you got in there, I think you just
yeah. And there was a whole list. She had like 13 bodies, something crazy.
Yes, you guys are in a lot of trouble.
But that was a nasty adventure too, and I don't even know what to say. Here's a trivia question for everyone. What is the longest name for a character in the campaign? Out of any character we have. Anyone want to venture to take a guess who has it? The answer is, are you ready? Sir Reginald Rathmore David Errol Trampier IV, Defender of the Faith and Vanquisher of the Unrighteous.
Good, upstanding member of the community.
One of Tim's characters in my campaign that also is the longest time he's an apprentice and not a full knight because he never made it to 9th level. He dual class to magic user now. He was a Cavalier Paladin, and yes. And what was his horse's name?
I think it was David something Sutherland the 6th. I think we're up.
David Charles Sutherland the 6th with his horse. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that one out there. That Tim had a lot of interesting characters.
When I play him, I always speak, of course. Yes, very forthright.
Yes.
This is the way it shall be done.
So I wanted to pull personalities from him to another character of yours and tell a Macarash story about Murdoch the Mighty. Now, you need to explain Murdoch to the character. Murdoch's a fighter cleric. High level, like probably 10-10 now. This probably happened when he was 8-9, 8-8. And this happened down in Virginia after we finished Temple of Mental Evil and after we finished Tim's adventure where everyone died but Fensik and Gazumba again, and all Tom's character, Pellinor got killed. Tom remembers that. Everyone else died. But so we did one, and Anna will love this. This is the founding of Altamira. It was called Cavalier School. They were going to find land that they could build 3 keeps, 3 Cavaliers, set up keeps, and then a city would build around it. This is the first adventure ever that we did about Altamira. But tell them about Murdoch a little bit.
So Murdoch had basically I kind of based them off Murdoch from the A-Team, I think, where he had a bunch of different personalities. And so I would roll, I numbered him, so I'd roll to see who he's going to be acting like.
20. I think it's 20. It's either 12 or 20.
I'd have to actually.
Siegfried the Sober, Poor Tom.
Yes.
There's a whole bunch of them. A whole bunch of.
There's like a superhero in there where
Rob
he's like.
Rob
the Brown Hornet. The Brown Hornet.
The Brown Hornet is another one. Yeah, he's got like all these personalities. He rolls it up, and that's who he plays that night. So the character's a little off. He's kind of good. But him and Swain, Mark's character Swain, had a little bit of a rivalry. They didn't like each other. Swain thought he was too aloof or too goofy, right? And Swain's not the. Yeah. So they didn't like each other. Murdoch, going back a step, didn't exist until Leonard Lakofka. There, I mentioned Leonard tonight. Assassin not. We'll step back. Tim, what happened? What's the rule now that you know?
Okay.
We'll tell the story first.
I had this cool little human thief dude named Gridley. He had used daggers, and he was like, and we're going into the assassins. We know there's something up, and he's trying to be all underworldish. So he's going to link up with some of these guys and get connected in the underworld. And he links up there and gets assassinated, and they find his body floating in the river.
Yeah.
That was it. That was it for him.
Yeah.
Never go alone.
Yes, never go out alone at night as a thief or anything else if you can help it. This is what happens. The DM will take advantage of it and permanently kill a character off. So
Right.
Gridley was gone out of that group, but he brought Murdoch instead. So I think we're all the better for it. But Gridley was killed off, and Murdoch. We were at the Cavalier site, where it is on the map, where Anna's placed it on the map, and they're up on the hill, and they're like, "This is wonderful. This is a perfect place." And who shows up but Macarash and a bunch of his cronies?
Which really, really upsets me because I also play the character that imprisoned him,
Yeah, Skeeve, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I was really angry that he's out. So it just really hurt my feelings.
Absolutely. And it was, but the poetic thing that happened in this fight, and we still, yes, we still don't know how, if you, well, we figured it out. So Macarash had a sword of sharpness, okay? And he attacked Murdoch, and with one swing, he must have had his right arm out and his left leg stepped out like this. He cut off his right arm and his left leg in one swing. Yeah. Right.
We discussed it, and I even enacted it.
Yes, you did.
I even enacted it. Like, this is how it happens. Ah! And he falls.
Yes. So thinking about it, when Brian Blumklotz does our Altamira heraldry, we may have to put an arm on there or a leg or something on the shield now. Now we're going to put Hoops' fruit. We're going to put some kind of fruit on there, but we may have to put a limb on or something, a bone, or I don't know, just to commemorate that, because that's when the Altamira was founded, in the campaign.
He critically hit me, so the sword of sharpness took a limb, and then the roll on the critical hit table took a limb. And
absolutely. But Macarash got away.
Yeah, again, thank you.
Yeah, always, like he always does. But founding of Altamira, that's what happened. And that was quickly written up by me on that one. But from that point on, we know where we have a huge city there. Anna's going to help us build it from scratch, put up all the locations on it through 2019. We have it on the map now. We're looking forward to that, some fun stuff with continuing to move forward here. Let me go right to it again. There's Tringley where we are. Here's Altamira on the map in the county Ulick. And you can see Carwood. You can see all the stuff there. And you can see, once again, Lightning Rod Tower and Golden Tower, which is nearby, and High Mound Tower up top, which is Bill Wafflin's Keep. They're all on there, so on that map. So thank you once again.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's super cool. So, anyone else with a question or two? We got some time still here. Let's talk. We haven't even talked about this. We haven't talked about the folder. Let's talk about this campaign. This is so old school. Tim's back from college, and no one else is around. I got to figure out what the hell I'm going to do on one-on-one campaigning, right? I have no idea, but we got to do something while Tim's back from college.
A lot of good
over the Christmas holidays. I forget what year it was.
Yeah.
So I said, let's have Skeeve infiltrate like Highport and maybe set up a rival thieves guild or something. He's like, cool idea, right?
But I need to throw this in here too, so you understand. And so, kind of the guidelines given as we're discussing is, hey, the higher power you exhibit, the higher power you're going to attract. And so, I'm trying to come in and do some spy stuff, so I don't want to attract anything. So I basically, a solo adventure, even if you're higher level, you start attracting other high levels, you're going to get, it's not going to work out. So I'm thinking, okay, super quiet, low espionage.
Yeah. So, well, that was the idea. That was the idea behind it. So he decides to open up a bakery. Skeeve does. And starts attracting thieves, and he gets this bouncer, half drow, right?
Yeah.
Named Hib. Now Hib's a real person in real life. Just call me Hib. So that was kind of a joke. But I found I was rummaging through my stuff. I went through and I got disgustingly dirty in my crawl space back in the house I have now in a box. But I found his thieves. Look at all the notes on there. I found Jesse, Duranta, all of them are here. I found his thieves. I also found all the bad guys here. So a quick story. Every morning, this very attractive female would walk down from the areas, the slaver estate area, and would walk in and be very chummy with Skeeve, and she'd say, "Oh yeah, her name's Valencia," and she'd go off. And Tim, Tim, of course, is very inquisitive. He always thinks he's paranoid that someone's spying on him or something.
I wonder why.
Yes, you absolutely wondered why. And so he tries scrying on her at one point. Realizes she's scrying on him.
I think it was ESP.
Yeah.
And then I realized she's ESPing him.
Yeah, they're ESPing each other. So it turns out that a big antithesis in my campaign Ultimate Creeper, in my campaign is named Lord Page. That's all he is Lord Page. He doesn't he's one of those Mastrine guys, Anna, one of those types. He beholden to nobody. His symbol's a big lightning bolt on his armor, on his shield. He has all these men-at-arms. And he's a typical chaotic neutral guy. High level. And turns out this is his wife, Valencia Page, who can't stand him. It was an arranged marriage, and she's stuck. Turns out she's a high-level dual-class illusionist magic user. She's super powerful. So they kind of start chumming it up and getting along real well. And Tim Skeeve decides he's going to tell a story. Tell a story what he did.
This is where I was trying to collect intel on Lord Page.
Yeah.
Because I was interested in his wife.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if I I think I might have shape changed or polymorphed. Probably polymorphed into a pixie.
You're polymorphed and invisible.
And invisible. And so I could fly around. So I'm like in his keep somewhere, and I'm up at a corner of a room.
You went into his bedroom.
I was snooping around. Come on. So, that's what you do. So he comes in, he looks up, oh, another mage, and starts attacking him.
With a final word broadsword. With backtalker, a chaotic neutral one. So you automatically hit. So blah, blah, blah. Skeeve goes
only once.
Yeah, all right. The others hit still. Skeeve goes from 75 hit points down like 15. And he's like poof.
I teleport.
Yeah, he teleports out there. So the moral of the story is don't go into super high level baddies bedrooms, no matter how hidden you think you are. And for him to go, ooh, another mage and attack, that just tells you. To this day, Lady Page, Valencia Page, and Skeeve are now married, and we did that whole thing too. Well, up in Watertown, New York, when you were stationed at Fort Drum. Meredith and I drove up there, and we did your whole wedding. She left Lord Page, and Skeeve and Lady Page are now an item. And Skeeve has children that are in an adventuring party in Harby. This is how long this campaign's been going on, guys. You see. When our kids can adventure and grow up in the campaign, you realize you are really old. So, but that's a kind of a fun story. Yes. We did this a lot. Now there's a sideboard.
I was so terrified. Fencing was I was afraid to do any spells. So I was using cantrips to change my hair color when I was out.
You mean Skeeve was? Skeeve was, yeah, because he didn't want to draw attention to himself. Yeah,
right. I didn't want to use powerful magic.
Absolutely. Hey, Anna, thanks. You get. We wanted to share some of these Monty Hall stories with you all because we figured this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. So, Alan wants to get in on this action. So this story is going on to this day. Okay, Alan, his character Sam, and Leuven comes to Highport, and they figure we're gonna get our own guild going and merge it with Skeeve's, and we're gonna get some other characters. All right. So they do that, and one of Alan's characters, which is Sam's characters, is named Drarius the Deposed. Drarius was a cavalier, 7th level. He lost all his lands gambling, was a typical chaotic neutral fool. So he had no other place to go, but he became a thief. Well, every time he failed a pickpocket, he'd just break their arms and strong arm rob them. So Sam would always have to scold him and get him out of prison. There's nothing ever really happened to thieves in Highport, right? And I'll shorten the story up. The slavers sent an assassin out after everyone. I apologize for the name up front. It may offend some people. She was only known as the bitch. Okay? Very nasty assassin. Turns out Ski found Leuven and Sam both assassinated with something cut off and in their mouths. Okay? That scared them so much that they both. Now, Leuven kind of did it diplomatically and helped. Sam just fled, leaving his thieves there with no guildmaster. Okay? Darius the Deposed never forgot that. And being a chaotic neutral and having nothing better to do with your life than have revenge, swore he'd take revenge on Sam one day or another. 25 years later in our game, literally, in our city of Altamira, a couple of years ago, all of a sudden the Human Thieves Guild is doing all these crazy things. They're throwing all the halflings and gnomes out. Dwarves aren't even allowed either, and they're doing tactics as far as murder, all sorts of stuff, crazy stuff. But they're purging all the short stunties in the guild in Altamira. People do some investigation. Turns out the guildmaster is named Lord Darius the Deposed. And he's now a 13th level thief and a dual class cavalier thief. And he is here in Sam's hometown to take revenge on Sam like he said he would all those years ago. So take a little story plot line that I have developed, from Sam fleeing and leaving his thieves there, and I've run with it to this day. And we got to be talking, 1989?
Yeah,
Around that.
I actually was
Watertown.
surprised that he just fled like that. But,
what year were you in Watertown? Do you remember?
Huh?
What year were you in Watertown, New York? 91, 90? So
no, that Watertown was like 95, 96.
Okay, so it's been 30.
That's their 98.
It's only been 20 years on this one, but so Darius is ready. He's in Altamira now. If anyone has read an old Dragon magazine, the joke "Midgets in the Earth" with Ubin Had and Spunk. What Spunk stand for, Tim?
Short People's Union of Nefarious Kleptomaniacs.
Yes. So Ubin Had and Spunk have now come to Altamira. Okay. All these halflings and all these other little guys. So there's another thieves guild in Altamira led by Spunk. So now you have Darius's guild and you have Spunk. And one day we're gonna have it out. Sam and all them and this is the kind of long-term stuff I like to plan out. Just give me a little story of where that went from playing with Tim to, man, I got a long-term arc where I can take.
If you're gonna be a leader, you gotta lead, even if things go bad.
Exactly. And I just, I love some of the plot lines that we do, and that's one of the ones I'm having. To this day, I can't wait because they took Walt's character, his best friend, Boyd, Sam's best friend Boyd. They have a bar together. It's based on a bar in Colorado, upstairs at something downstairs when we went for Tim's wedding in Breckenridge, Colorado.
Downstairs at Eric's.
Yes. And so Boyd, he's a cleric illusionist. They put a helm of opposite alignment on him. He's neutral evil now. And he does all these awful things. If you've ever seen illusionist spells, there's spells like Death Fog. Well, there are no squatters in Altamira anymore, and no one can figure out why for all these years. And it turns out that Boyd, in the middle of the night, was taking the squatters and putting them in this pit here with walled of stone off and doing all sorts of crazy experiments to them. So just to note that Walt's in on this too. Okay, so Walt knows his character was turned evil, and there you go. So he's enjoying it too. So sometimes you get to play an evil character here and there in the campaign. So how about you, Tim? You got one you want to talk about?
Well, going back to those stories of just I was thinking about the quick thinking story back when we were doing Temple of Elemental Evil. I had a fighter.
Gramdring.
Yeah, so I had a fighter. He was real strong, but he was also very intelligent. And I think it was a different party or was part of a group that hadn't gone in there yet or was less well known.
I had two adventuring groups running at the same time. I had Wayne and Mark and them, and I had my main group. and they were going in at the same time doing forays in. So we had 2 adventuring parties in. You were part of the goofy group.
The good one.
You were part of the good one. That's true. No, but I had Leo McMichael in that too. So go for it.
Yeah.
Continue the
So
story.
We've been, the good guys have been winning, and we go down there and we come into a room and there's someone in robes, behind some stuff over in the corner, and she's like, "Who's that?" And then before anyone can open their mouth, I have Glamdring say, I said, "We hear these all these good guys are kicking your butts. We're here to show, put it back in their place." I say something like that. And so, she's interested because we all do look like ne'er-do-wells. And so it allows us to get close. And when we get around the barrier, we find out she's a Lamia. So we get the jump on her, which really saved us from some serious trouble. So we would have been in a little bit more trouble with her spell casting. So I just, off the cuff, quick thinking, I always remember that. Have a quick story.
Well, here's the even better part of that story. This is the time where I have Leo McMichael. He's an archer thief multi-class, and he is chaotic neutral. He's another person based on a real person in life. This is and he's really can't stand his party members. So remember, if you've ever played Temple of Medieval, you have earth, air, water, and fire factions still in the temple. I can't remember what faction it was. I think it was the water faction. They got to him and they bribed him to turn on the party. Now, I know you were there for that. He turned on the party and took down.
I always wanted to kill Leo from the very moment that he actually showed up in Adventures in NPC.
Because you knew Leo in real life too.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you didn't? He was a year ahead of me in high school. I thought you did.
Yeah, I think that my good, nice, polite person filter just kept me from doing it.
So Leo turned on the party, killed a bunch of them, took off with his money, and they saw him a couple times in the future. He's still alive to this day. I may bring him back someday too. But Glamdring was there, and if anyone, what Tim's character Glamdring has a dubious distinction. If anyone could tell me that, Nash, I think you listen close to anyone else. What is his dubious distinction? He's a human fighter.
But he's smart.
He's smart. His dubious distinction is this. He's age 60, I believe. His death is 66, natural. He will be the first character we've ever had to just drop dead of natural causes eventually in a few years. And you never get to that point in your age, right? So it's close.
Yeah,
it's
you
close.
Better go ahead and get magic jarred before then,
or something. But I have been giving out very few potions, and our Alexis have used. I've given out very few of them. But I just know every year I do a year change every year. When I get to a certain point, we're in 635 in our campaign. I'll do 636 soon. And then we'll do a changeover, and I do everyone. I sit there, usually during football season, and I spend like 6 hours just adding a year to every character. And if their brackets change, if they go from like mature to old, they lose stats. So and that happens. People age, but I know every year Glamdring's getting closer and closer to that death age. So bad for him.
I thought you were going to talk about the Mirror of Mental Prowess.
Well, the Mirror of Mental Prowess is a great item. I know Michael Baton has one too. And you use that to jump around a lot in that adventure. I remember that specifically. So that was...
Commando waves.
Yes. Can you imagine that Naz actually dying of old age as a character, and that's how long you've been playing? So
that just means you're a good adventurer. You can live that long to die of old age. You're just good.
Absolutely. I mean, it's crazy how long of a time frame we're talking there. Let's go. I don't see you weren't. Oh, let's talk about real quick another Naz one he wanted to talk about. The first adventure we ever ran in the Order of Yule campaign, the Battle of Outpost number 1, and what survived that. So go ahead. It was, and remember, it was Ski, Florman,
is that the one where there was 5 of us against a bunch?
Yes. So tell us quickly. What do you think?
So,
no, adventure number 1 in our campaign. Number 1.
Wait, I'm sorry, the sound.
What? You can't hear me?
Okay, you fuzzed in and out.
Okay.
What did you say?
Adventure number 1.
Right.
Go for it. Tell us. What?
you just kind of stopped again.
Oh, okay.
Adventure number one, I thought it was the group of 5 guys against the 5 siege
Yes. Yes.
towers that were coming, but we had 100 pikemen as a feint, so to draw the attention, and
Right.
then we went through and did the, you know, Ski was using some mass area effects, Big B's clenched fist, and I think I shrunk some of the towers with a diminution, and you know,
You did a whole bunch of stuff. I remember you put a wall of force up along all the cavalry, and they all
were there cavalry there? Was that the same fight?
They had, yeah, it's the same fight. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So yeah, I put a 4-foot high fence, so
Right.
that way they
Yeah.
it just shears the legs and breaks their legs, and they fall over it, and everyone, that was massively successful.
Basically, Macarash was invading through the Sus, crossing the river, and attacking outpost number 1, which is on the map. It's if you notice in the I'll show you to you real quick here. We're right at the end. 2, 3. Okay, it's up here near Thunderstrike. If you go from Thunderstrike due east, you see outpost number 1. That was the first building that was built after Wales Castle, which is all the way at the bottom of the river. You know, thank you, Anna, once again. So that's where outpost number 1 is. Thunderstrike didn't exist in our game at that point, but so they were successful. They spurned off the invasion, but no one cared about the pikemen. So, and as I asked about the last pikeman, well, 2 pikemen out of 100 survived somehow. And Mark actually created the son of one of them as an adventurer. Clodwig Xistus was his name. Clyde always got critically hit. He lost limbs all the time. And so Clyde got the 4th level and retired because he was missing an arm, he was missing a leg, he was really messed up. So 2 pikemen survived, and that was one of the 2. You know, they're living infamy as, wow, you know, they got awarded medals of honor for surviving and all that. But that's the story about the pikemen. So yes, Stubbs, yes, Grim. So that's the story, Naz, about the last surviving pikeman and adventure number 1. And now we're on 844 coming up on Thursday. Imagine that, all those adventures. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. I'm not going to talk about the moles one, Naz. I'm going to save that one for a future time because we need some other people here for that one. All right. Tell us about you running Fortress Elendar and how good of an adventure that is, if you remember.
I do remember that. It's kind of, I forget what game system it is. It's not
high fantasy, adventures in high fantasy, but you converted it to 1st edition.
Yeah, it was great fun.
It's on our wall of fame.
Yeah, it has. You see the big flash on there. There's some kind of new magic item ideas, and there's a lot of. It's very tense and frightening at the end of it because you're basically freeing something otherworldly to deny the keep to the, you know, the lords that have, you know, they overtook the keep. You've been hired to free this thing, which is a big giant demon prince, I think, and you can do it, but you only have a certain amount of time when you finally, you know, do the incantation to, you know, let them out. You only have a certain amount of time to get to the safe area, and there can be problems on the way if you don't do it right. So it was great fun, and that's really the first time we had archers. I don't think the Dragon magazine had the archer articles out yet. So, but there's these renowned archers that are involved in it that are problematic for the approach to the tower.
They had some great magic items to this day that we love. Prometheus clay, right? Was a great magic item where you could craft any monster. We kept it to naturally occurring animal because Walt got a hold of it and abused it and made a Rumvaraxes every time. And you guys all know what an Rumvarax is from Monster Manual 2 with 12-hit die. We limited it to naturally occurring animals after that. The Shield of Prey, where it has the shield with the bird talons coming out of it to grab. There's some great items in this. And I won't ruin it for anyone, but if you can get a hold of this a copy of this somewhere, I mean, I have a sealed copy on my wall downstairs, but this is a great adventure to convert and run.
It's a fun one.
It is a fun one, and once again, it's another one that Tim ran for Gazumbin Hawk of my ilk. Pendant of Thought's in here. Salve of Phoebus is in here. Some really cool items in here that you said, I remember it to this day. So a great one. I had to bring that one up. All right, let's talk about Highport again before we start wrapping things up. Let's talk about before you got assassinated, Leuven and Sam's heist in Highport.
Are we talking about the potion shop?
Yes.
But actually, the potion shop was Skeeve.
I thought it was Skeeve and Leuven.
Well, I remember there were so many. The potion shop owner was such a total
Douchebag.
He was really, and Jay, of course, is very, very, very good at role playing that to make him so. So it was like really, really bothering Skeeve. And after a while, he was very frustrated with Lord Page and other things going on. So he's like, I think he also had some connections with the opposing Thieves Guild, the Humanoid Thieves Guild, which was another subplot there. But he had so many defenses, but Skeeve sussed them all out. And then I remember writing, it was like 3 pages of, I'm going to cast this spell, and then this spell, and then this spell. And I'm going to, and it was like, I went down the list. And so he came in, plus he was a high level thief, and just emptied the place out. Even his super secret.
I have it.
The super secret chamber below with the elixir of life and all his super high valued ones. And I cleaned it out. And the thing is, part of this was, I wanted to frame the bitch, the assassin. So I had made myself look like her. So when the owner finally came down, when I was almost done,
yep.
I make sure he sees me in her form, and then I torch the place. And I torch it non-magically. I did do a high-powered spell, which, if he knew what it was, it would give away that, I wasn't who I was trying to be. But
so here's some of the names of us being childish, and I won't go through the really bad ones. These are not Zelda's Mud Wrestling and Casino, the Viscous Wench.
That's right. I like that.
The Dickless Elf.
Macarash's favorite.
Yeah. Wang Chung's. Seafood Shanty. Remember that place? Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. The Toothless Troll and the Happy Whore. Yes, there's some of the establishments that people frequented in Highport.
So it's just the quality establishments you.
Yes, I thought that you had a Wanna Metal command and you took out the impregnable safe by glass stealing it, if I recalled.
That was a different heist, I think.
Okay, I think that was Leuven and Sam. Okay, I'm getting confused.
Yes, you know what? Leuven and Sam did do a heist, but it was to a big safe, but that was more thievish, less magic. I've always thought of Skeeve's thing just because I totally ruined that guy's whole life and career.
Yeah, I wish I had some of the other guys on to tell some of the other stories. There's some real good ones that Walt could tell, because Walt was there at the beginning, and even Alan a little bit. But Alan forgets what day forgets what we had for lunch last night. But Walt could tell some of the older school stories that when we played some really old Monty Hall stuff.
Now, I have a story about playing. Doing the Hill Giant Chief, studying the Hill Giant Chief.
Oh, yeah. Tell about Atarva. No, tell about those two characters first. Good. Atarva and Black Wolf.
Atarva
good
was
one.
A drow, cleric thief, very evil. And Black Wolf was a human barbarian who was like hanging out with her. Also very bad. And they were basically my Macarash to the characters, because I learned it from Jay to punish them and then get away. So that's what they would do. And
of course,
yes, of course. After they did their first major foray into the Hill Giant Chief, these guys came along to help out. I mean, that's what you're
yeah, and but they got a hold of Andrus Philandrus.
Yes, and then
your gnome, your NPC gnome, illusionist thief.
Yes, and they left his eye tacked to a wall with a sign. I got my eye on you.
Yeah, amongst other body parts.
Yeah, I think his hand with his middle finger.
Yeah, so they tore. He was already dead. He got critically hit with a giant boulder. I think his head got crushed. I think that's what happened to him. I think he got killed.
There was in the first fight in the main room. They were killing so many hill giants in such a small area. We basically were doing dexterity rolls every round for slipping in the gore, because it was like you have such massive things bleeding out everywhere. It's like, okay,
Yeah, it
it is
was.
specifically dysfunction in here.
Yeah, because if you guys, if anyone's ever done the steading, that one big room at the beginning where the feast hall is, there's a lot of giants in there. I mean, more than you could possibly fight reasonably. Um, and just, but yeah, Atarva, she a magic user assassin,
He was a cleric thief,
cleric thief, and then a Black Wolf was
and
a
then Black
barbarian.
Wolf was a barbarian.
Yeah,
Yes,
she was chaotic evil, and he was chaotic evil too, or he's chaotic neutral.
I think he might have been chaotic neutral, but for all intents,
It didn't
and
matter. He was
purposes,
just a yeah. Yeah.
he was really hung
Good
out.
NPCs though from you because they were very. You never knew what they were going to do. You never knew where they were going to show up and bother you and attack and just
And they were
cause
so damn
havoc.
fast. They're
You know?
fast
Yeah.
and light. Yeah.
The Dark Elves back then, they weren't Forgotten Realms Dark Elves. They were old school Dark Elves. So more the kind that that we play out of the Vault of the Drell type of Dark Elves, not the Drizzt Dark Elves. So, anyone online want to ask us anything before I start going to some announcements here? We got some really cool stuff I'm about to announce. Really cool. And I'm glad to see Naz and Brian are getting along with some planning there. And I appreciate everyone. I mean, we didn't know where it's going to go. We're just BSing here, guys. And it's a good thing amongst your own group or amongst your friends or even with us at some point. You want to tell some stories? I'll listen, man. That's part of the game. It's part of creating the camaraderie as you remember all these great stories from like when you were a kid, like it was real, and in our heads it probably is somewhere. We always said that. We always said somewhere there's a universe galaxy where every character we have really exists, right? That's the Carl Sagan thought on things.
I like the collectively making a story collectively.
Yeah. Well, Nick, so I've never published anything at all. I've never done anything until I did the 2 articles for GaryCon. I'm serious. I rarely have written anything. I have, and I just wrote this for GaryCon, and it'll go on Greyhawk Online. It's going to go in the next Earth Journal. It's called The Order of Ulick, the Founding and Synopsis. And then I just finished this one and submitted it yesterday. It's called The Order of Ulick, Current Situation in the Sealed Lands. So I'm going to make these available after we show them at GaryCon. But I'm working on some Order of Ulick stories. And some of the old school stuff, it's just too Monty Hall to even really write down and keep it reasonable. You know what I mean? But this stuff I can do. It translates pretty well. So here's some stuff going on. Anyone who was on earlier saw a gentleman named Carlos Lysing come on. And I VIP'd him, and he followed. And Carlos Lysing, let me just go a little background, is as old school as we are. Started playing when we started in like 1978. Runs a Great Greyhawk campaign. Is the dungeon master that everyone wants to sign up for at a convention. So GaryCon, I mean, his table's sold out in 10 minutes. He's doing 4 adventures at GaryCon. They're that quick. Everyone wants to play in his game. He's part of our Future of Greyhawk group, and he has agreed to be my guest on next week's show. And we're going to sit and we're just going to talk. We're going to talk Carlos stories about his campaign and things he's doing now. I'm so looking forward to having Carlos on, because it just shows that there's another old schooler guy out there like me. There's some of us, Tim, that are out there still. You, me, and So Carlos will be my special guest next week, and he's gone one step further. I appreciated him showing up tonight. And stepping in. He said to me, we're talking yesterday on Discord, and he's like, Jay, I want to do something for you. I was like, Carlos, you don't have to. You're coming on enough. He says, no, I'm going to take what you wrote here. You don't mind if I take this article based on in the Pomage area. You don't mind if I write a module adventure for your campaign, do you? I was like, really? No. Why would I mind? Carlos, you're going to write. Carlos Lysing's going to write an adventure for us. I woke up this morning and I couldn't sleep. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. So his time, he was in Chicago. It's 5 a.m. He had already written it. He wrote the module already. Here it is. It's called Mushroom Blue. Let me just read the first, and this is so cool to me. Note, this adventure was designed to be used within the Order of Yuluk campaign created by J.L. Scott. And it goes on, talks about, it can be adapted. And at the very end, he does an homage and says, and this is, of course, Brian's going to go poo-poo this because it's going to, blowing Jay's having it up again. This adventure card is dedicated to J.L. Scott, long live the Order of Yuluk. So, here's the deal. I'm going to run this. That's pretty cool. I mean, it doesn't get cooler than this, guys. Yeah. I'm going to run this around when our characters in Winchester's Bulwark get about 3rd level. It's really cool. And once again, thank you. But he said, why don't you, as a bonus, give it out to your viewers? I was like, okay. So this is what we're going to do. After the show, we're going to talk. And yeah, it's insane. And this is, he said he's going to do 2 to 3 pages. This is 9 pages. So all subscribers will automatically, as long as you're on tomorrow night, next Sunday and you watch, you have to be on. Okay. We'll get a copy of this, a Carlos Lysing created module. And I will, yes, incredible, Tom. And I will give this via drawing to at least, if we get over 30 on average, for every 10 on average we get, I'm gonna give it to a follower randomly drawn too. So all subscribers will definitely get it, and at least with our average, at least 2 followers will get it, maybe 3. I will give this to you and email you this Carlos Lysing adventure. I just think it doesn't get any better than that. This guy is, he's genius when it comes to stuff. So just wanted to put that out there. He will be my special guest next week. I'm excited about that. Just as excited as I am about this and all the things we're doing. What do you think, Tim?
That's cool.
It's cool. It's cool.
Very cool.
I got some nice pictures of him. Oh, by the way, that picture up right now, anyone who knows the gentleman who's there drinking with me, it shows that Steve can smile. That's all I put that picture up for. Steve can smile when he wants to. Tom and anyone else on gets that joke. So, so Carlos Lysing will be my guest next week. And we may have Mark and we may have Bill the Mastercraft. We're going to have some other people because they want to ask him questions, but it'll at least be the 2 of us talking. So that's my announcement, and we're gonna really promote that. It's gonna be a nice event. Thursday night we continue in Winchester's Bulwark. We go back to the low levels. The high levels that we finished up Thursday night with back to the battle site will transition into the low levels. So Ace Broadhead has something he has to do for the group. We'll explain that. Garth will go back to Warmonger's Tower, and all sorts of things will go on, and we'll transition from the 9th and 10th levels down to the 2nd levels. Some of them are first still. Thanks, Brian. Thank you so very much. We will. You tell me who gets that for a free hero point, a special hero point on Thursday. You don't have to tell me right away, but thanks, Brian. Really appreciate that. And you're a subscriber, so you're getting that event. You're getting Carlos's adventure. Anyone who wants to, you can subscribe right up to the last second. I don't care. I'll give it to you. Like I said, we're trying to create a community here, and Anna's part of the community. Brian Blumklotz is part of the community. Greyhawk Mike, they're all part. So. I know you're a prick like that, so we'll see on that. So anti-paladin point. I may give it. There is a bad guy. I don't know if they'll get to him the first week, Brian. So we'll talk about it again. You and I will chat. So we'll continue that next Thursday. I don't think I have time for a prelude on Wednesday, guys. I got a dinner I have to do. I have to go to on Wednesday. I don't think I'll have a prelude this week, but we'll continue that. So
Just don't go in the back room, Jay.
So, any last questions for Tim? I mean, we got Tim on. We got Tim on for a full 2 hours, guys. So, thank you, Tim. I know you're swamped and busy.
No
Tim and his father John are 100% in for the Mega Stream event on March 23rd. The end from the 8 p.m. Oh, I have to show this. My bad.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to make it real fast. Okay. This is what Bill is building, and I also have Jeff, who's building stuff for Mark's campaign in here, so you can see what they're both doing, what they're crafting. This is what clear you out. I'll take it, man. Thanks, dude. Thanks, Brian. This shows what he's building for this end of this mega stream. That red dragon is a big. It's like this. It's big, guys. That shows you the size of the terrain that he is building for this. So Tim is playing Fensick and Leuven. John is playing right now Abdul. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing another one. Anna is playing Abdul's love interest, Mariel. So Anna's going to be zooming in and playing Mariel, Jalarzi's friend, and basically, apprentice. She's 13th level, but she's an apprentice, and so we'll see what happens there. I've been told that Fensick may have a little bit of an interest in Anna too, right, Fensick? You never know.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. So we may have a little interesting back and forth there. And yes, Naz has heard all sorts of stories about Tim. We had Tim on it's just been an awesome evening.
Thanks.
We'll be using Iron Brigade members, which John has. Abdul's part of the Iron Brigade. Alan will be having his characters. I'll have my monk here in Winchester, who's basically got a child with Marcus, Bill's character. Mark will have Railstone Gradavis. We'll all have our high-level characters, and we'll finish up the mega stream at 8 p.m. I'm going to tell you all this as a little tidbit. The only person who knows who the baddie at the end is this gentleman right here, Tim. And I scared the shit out of him. Right?
I'm not happy.
He's not happy.
I'm probably not even going to show up.
So that's how good this is going to be and how nasty it's going to be. It's as nasty as you can think on the end of that. I'm looking forward to raising a lot of money for St. Jude Hospital during that. Will is got Return of the Band of Kingdoms at 8 a.m., which is 6 a.m. his time, guys. When he starts, he's got this fantastically cool idea when he starts off our mega stream at 8 a.m. Mark's got something cool going from noon to 4, and the Greyhawk channel will have from 4 to 8. So I'm going to finish up the evening by saying thank you all for another fantastic night. Like I said, we're trying to create a community here. I got everyone on who's watched, I'll consider you my friends. I know it's been a fun evening. I'm trying to get Tim to come out to more games. We'll see if that happens. But this is a start, right? This is a start. This is a start. You got a lot going on. But we're all having a blast. And just know that this is only the beginning. Anna's going to be doing a lot of events with her on her show. And we're going to be doing a lot of cool things. Brian Blumklotz is going to create our new heraldry symbol for the city of Altamira. So everyone needs to think of and I want participation from the audience too. What do you want to see on the shield for heraldry for Altamira? We all know that Hoops is fruit stands there, and we need a piece of fruit of some sort on there, right, Tim? We have to have a Hoops, the fruit stand.
I recommend a kumquat.
Well, I don't even know what a kumquat looks like, guys. So yes. But it's all going to be a blast. We got so many things going on in 2019. I know Gary Kahn's the main focus with the Future of Greyhawk Group. We're all doing stuff for it. Anna's putting together stuff, printed materials, and then the ads are going to show on this too. We're going to be running stuff for that. We got a lot going on. It starts March 23rd, but it actually starts 2 weeks earlier at Gary Kahn to really kick off stuff for Greyhawk. So thank you all. Tim, thanks a lot.
No problem.
Everyone else, thank you for a great evening. I'm going to end it up with our mega stream, and then I'll see you all on Thursday night. And then next Sunday with Carlos. You guys are going to see me blast the shit out of ads for this. Carlos is going to bring all his people on too. My guess is that we will have a record. This was a top 2. Our GM stream was our DM roundtable is number 1. I think Carlos next week may surpass our DM roundtable of all the people he says he's going to be bringing on. Thanks a lot, guys. Just remember this. I don't care. It doesn't matter what edition you play, as long as it's Greyhawk. You have fun with it. That's all that matters. Once again, DM Tim the ever mysterious, and I'm Jay, aka Lord Gazumba. We'll see you guys all soon. Thanks a lot for a wonderful evening. Hopefully I hit the right button here. Talk to you all soon. Tim, we're still on, so can you hang for, you got to roll?
I can hang for a moment.
Okay.
What are you doing?
I'm just gonna, we'll just chat after that. We got the 2 things we got to run, then we'll, so it's just, sit tight for 3.5 minutes. Okay. Or if you got to use the restroom or something. That's what
Yeah, I gotta take a leak. I'll be right back.
What?